Mathematically speaking, I think it's likely that this universe is, in fact, a simulation. I've read a lot of articles that try to definitively pin it down. You'll see an article that says, we live in a simulation, or you'll see an article that says, we definitely do not live in a simulation. I honestly don't believe at our current level of technology and understanding of the universe that we can tell. And the reason is this: the idea behind us not being a simulation is that the universe is too complex, perhaps. But then again, we're only seeing one planet in the universe. There could be entire galaxies full of computers calculating every little aspect of our world. Each of us, each perspective that lives on the earth could have its own supercomputer somewhere, occupying an entire solar system, simulating exactly where we are and what we see. Here's what I think. If it's possible to perfectly simulate the universe, if it's ever going to be possible, and by perfectly I mean it's indistinguishable from the real thing, then I believe that we probably are in a simulation. The math points to it. We're more likely to be in a future recreation of the present than we are to be in the actual present, the very first run of the human race. I think it is interesting to speculate about this now with the world in such flux. I think for entertainment, the future versions of us would want to relive interesting and exciting moments. Or perhaps this is a history trip. We are students of history, looking back at the pivotal moments of humanity. And so far, this is definitely the most interesting moment that's ever been. People could argue that 100 years ago was the most interesting of its time, or 200 years ago was the most interesting of its time. But I'm not really sure that that's the case for many decades and centuries before this one. There were decades where nothing happened. There were centuries when not much happened. We live now in a time of great change, of great potential and great danger. It does make sense that this would be something we would revisit. And it makes me wonder if there's something big coming. Of course, I could be entirely wrong. The universe might not be that interesting right now. Maybe 5,000 years is way more interesting. Maybe we don't achieve true sentient artificial intelligence this century or this decade, and maybe we don't achieve the singularity in our lifetimes or in the lifetimes of many people alive. But even so, it makes sense to me that this is a simulation, that this moment will be repeated infinite number of times. And I say that with the caveat that if the universe isn't infinite, then obviously it won't be. But if the universe lasts for trillions of years, it makes sense to me that we would recreate the past. We might be in the mid or late stages of the heat death of the universe. And we might be waking up once every million years to sip a tiny sip of the remaining power we've collected and live for a brief moment. And what we're experiencing is a chain of those tiny sips, a chain of awakenings that stretches out millions and billions of years to recreate one single second. We might be living in the pinnacle of a Type 3 civilization that has pulled dozens of galaxies together to create some sort of supercluster of galaxies and draw energy from it and use its gravity to draw more matter in. And maybe this is just like a video game to us. We sit down for a single afternoon and we play through 100 years of human history, jumping from body to body, from mind to mind. When we're in the moment, when we're in an identity, to make it real, we forget the outside and we forget what's going on. Maybe our lives are horrifically boring, and this is fun for us. Or maybe we're just here trying to learn about something that happened in our own past. Maybe this is happening 40, 50 years in the future, and we are reliving some pivotal moment using all available data to try and manifest some insight or some knowledge into what really went down and how it changed us. I'm not a big fan of absolutes, so I don't really like saying this is definitely a simulation. So I guess I would say it's mathematically attractive to say that this is a simulation. It's not a guarantee. It's not some inevitable conclusion based on all available data. But it's possible, and it could fit. And we could fit within it. There's a chance that none of this is even real. None of this happened. We've created a new universe within our supercomputer's mind's eye and are just living out what it would be like. And this is the result. If we are godlike beings with infinite power at our disposal, that strikes me as one form of entertainment amongst infinite forms. Of course, I'm not gonna bank what I say as absolute truth or as an excuse to live life in a certain way. I think we have to assume that this life has some meaning and it has some purpose. Simulation or not, we're here. We're experiencing the now. Maybe we're just talking to ourselves, telling ourselves stories in the night. Or maybe this is the first run of something miraculous. And in a way, that makes it special to think that. That makes it special to be in the opening night of a play. One that will go on for months or even years. We'll repeat the same lines and we'll follow the same stage direction. life is complex. There's a lot of darkness in the world right now. There's a lot of change going on, and there's way more change to come. We're clinging on to the old life right now as if it were a piece of wood in a deep, vast ocean. We're afraid to let go of that flotsam and jetsam. We're afraid to sink down into that new ocean that we're in. We're afraid we'll lose ourselves. We are afraid we will get a part of us on the surface while we venture into the unknown. I can't help but to think about every time humanity packed up and committed to change. People deciding to migrate from their home to a new place because it had gotten too dangerous to live there, too expensive to live there. There was nothing there to sustain them any longer. So they headed out the door of the abode they had built themselves, and they walked away from it. They kept walking. And they would look back, but they kept walking. Maybe a handful of them stayed behind to wave and to cry. We are simulating the universe. I'd like to propose a few theories on why we would do such a thing. And I've already touched on them, but I would like to go deeper into some of my thoughts. In one scenario, I can imagine something very traumatic to the human race about to occur. AI doesn't work out how we wanted, or maybe it works out better than our wildest dreams. But maybe a post-AI singularity world has gotten dull, and we yearn for the space before where we were limited and weaker, and our feelings were more real. And so this is like entertainment to us. Just like today in 2026, we might play a video game that simulates the medieval times, or building a city in the year 1400, playing a Roman legionnaire or a Roman commander commanding vast legions on an open battlefield. We might in the future want to experience the final days of us being almost childlike. And of course, that's the good scenario. The bad scenario is that it all goes wrong. The transition from the state we are in to the next state is harsh and traumatic and apocalyptic. Maybe that's exciting to us. Maybe the world that follows is dry and dead and dull and crackles like leaves as we step on into it. And we yearn for that warm, vibrant place that we once knew. I'm reminded of that movie 12 Monkeys, where these people are basically living in hell, hiding from a sickness, a virus, a plague, in a very inhospitable, sterile atmosphere underground. and they send one of their people back in time, and suddenly he's in a world where he can move freely, he can meet people, he can fall in love. He doesn't have to worry about the air or the sun or the dangers of being outside. It's tempting to just want to stay there, but at the same time, it's tempting to want to try and fix it and change it. The future is a horizon. The future is a window. The future is a doorway. We don't know what's on the other side of that. We can only see traces of what it might be. Shards of light, or a sweet smell, or a foul smell, or some kind of dancing shadows that we can't make out. It's scary, but it's also tempting us to look. And if it is a simulation, maybe we're trying to recapture that feeling. I think ultimately, many of us, most of us, will be okay. The craziest apocalyptic scenarios that people come up with, they're just that. They're just ideas and scenarios, and I guarantee many people throughout the years have thought they were living in the absolute worst times and that death and destruction were to follow. And to be fair, sometimes those fears were real. There have been cultures and groups of people that have been wiped completely clean off the face of the earth. There have been ideas and movements that have been suppressed and destroyed. There's been art lost to time, books that no longer exist and no one remembers. I read somewhere 75% of all silent films have been lost. And as a fan of movies and cinema and video, I mourn that loss. Who knows what existed and what we once had. I hope the future is bright, and I hope we all are there to see it. And I hope that this is a simulation and we're here just for fun. We're here to see some cool stuff. And then when the simulation's over, we'll laugh about it. We'll smile. It'll make us happy to have visited this time. Before we go back to our dull, boring, godlike existence. If you're listening to this, I just want to say good night and good luck.